Well, it's lovely to come back to this hall. I haven't been back in nearly 60 years. In fact, I broke my big toe just over there where you're sitting, Michelle, playing indoor soccer. And I missed the ball and kicked Barry Parker's shin. And in fact, it's very much part of my passion, as Vicky described it, is the fact that I am a chinchilla boy, and I feel very much for the people in this community who have been impacted by this industry. I also want to acknowledge a number of people. I want to thank Glenn in particular. The people of Queensland found an incredible gem when they unexpectedly, I think, at the last election when they voted in Glenn Lazarus as the Senator of Queensland, because he's been a powerful and he and his whole office, Tess, his wife and his office are just a wonderful resource. Not just for our movement, but for many people in the state who are trying to achieve a more democratic and sustainable and just society. I also would like to mention a number of people who are here from Lock the Gate, who I'm mentioning them because you might find them a useful resource as well. We've got Carmel Flint, who is our National Campaign Coordinator. Carmel, would you mind just putting your hand up? Actually, she could put her hand up and still wouldn't see her. She's about 4'6". There she is. But she's our Campaign Coordinator. Kate, who is our Queensland Coordinator. And Paul Wynn, who we've just appointed, and some of you might actually find Paul to be a useful person to speak to today, because we've asked him to do some work on water issues in Queensland, and in this area especially looking at the Make Good agreements, which are going to be some of the really key issues of the next few years in this part of the world. At this point in time, well, I think we can look back and say the best times provided by the gas industry have come and gone. That's it. That's what it was. We've had the best times. Now look forward to the worst times, because the price, the international price of oil has plummeted, and with it has plummeted the price of gas. It's now down to a point where the gas companies cannot have a margin. They cannot make money unless they cut their costs enormously, and by cutting their costs, they cut their ability to get the gas out in the first place. They have paid $80 billion, actually just over $60 billion, up against the wall over the last 6 or 8 years, building their LNG plants and their pipelines and all the rest of it. And they are not going to be able to return anything like the amount of money to the people of Queensland through royalties that governments have been telling us for some time now that we're going to get. So all those schools and hospitals and roads and so on that we were going to get, we won't get. We won't get, because this industry is nothing but a bubble. And I said that right from the start. This is going to be the South Sea bubble of the 21st century, and that's exactly what it is. It's a crop. And it is going to be not a provider of jobs and wealth for the people of Queensland. It's going to be an incubus. It's going to sit on our shoulders now for the next 100 years, 50 years, however long it takes for our underground water systems to deplete and get contaminated, and for our rural communities to find out what it's like to live in a mining economy, and to be in an area where water is not just simply a precious resource, but a scarce one as well. We are also at a time in the gas industry when the construction phase has ended. It's just coming to an end now. It has been for a little while, actually. So the gas companies are putting off staff as a result of the fact that the gas prices dropped, and they're putting off staff because there's no longer the need to build pipelines and accommodation camps and so on. So the businesses in town which might or might not have been doing well out of the gas industry, are not going to be doing so well. People are going to go broke. That's what happens in a mining town. And so the bad times are coming. But the bad times have been with quite a few of the landowners for quite some time, and they're going to continue because the impacts of this industry are going to continue regardless of what happens in the international economy and the international price of gas. So that's a bad thing, but of course it's a good thing as well. Good thing as well, because they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable. When I first came out here in 2010, a lot of people, said, "What's that bloody greenie doing out here?" I wasn't trusted, and I can understand why that was the case. But also, the whole thing was happening so quickly, and nobody really understood what it was, what that was going on. A lot of people, thought, "Oh, it can't be too bad," and so they signed CNA agreements, and it took a while to find out what that was all about. And I got started, I think, in April of 2010. I connected up with people like Lee McNichol and some of the people out of Tara, people out of Cambie, and we started campaigning, but by, I think it was May of 2010, Santos got their approval from the Labor government of the day. A month later, Origin got theirs. Coal mines were getting approved all the time. I think, QGC got theirs approved in June. Origin got theirs approved in August. And we set up Lock the Gate in September. Too late really. But in New South Wales, it wasn't. Gas was coming much slower to New South Wales. And so I had time to get in there and talk to farmers. And I talked to them in church halls and in barns and in paddocks, and they got themselves organised. So that today, in New South Wales, there is not one viable gas project in the state. Not one. And who kicked them out? Not the government. The people kicked them out. Communities kicked them out. They kicked them out of Newcastle. They kicked them out of Sydney. They're right in the middle of Sydney. Kicked them out. They kicked them out of the Northern Rivers. They're at the present time are in the process of kicking them out of the Liverpool Plains and northwest New South Wales. And how did they kick them out? They kicked them out because ordinary people, ordinary communities, ordinary farmers got together to do this. And that's amazing. It's the most amazing social movement this country has ever seen. Nobody has ever seen farmers do this. People like them. These are farmers at a little place called Coonamble. I don't know if you know, in northwest New South Wales. Cattle country. It's not great country, it's good cattle country, but it's not your Liverpool Plains, it's right next to the Liverpool Plains. But 100% of the landowners in Coonamble have got together, every one of them has locked the gate. 1 million hectares of Coonamble, around Coonamble, got locked up by the community. They're a gas bill-free community. And if I can, just click this to, no, what do you do?
Oh, sorry,
I was born in the first half of the 20th century. That's the, this actually is a celebration that they had about a month ago in Gunnedah, of where 3 million hectares of northwest New South Wales was celebrating the fact that they are gas field-free communities. 3 million hectares of that area. Now, where people have voted, there's been a movement, surveys have been done, people have had a chance to sit down and talk about all of this, and as a result, well over 90%, in some areas 100%, of landowners have voted to say we want a gas field-free or a mining-free community. So they celebrated in the streets of Gunnedah. that milestone, and they're the sorts of people that are doing it. You know, these aren't greenies. These aren't people, you know, with dreadlocks. These are farmers doing it. They have never ever thought of themselves in their lives as environmentalists, even though they are, many of them, in practical terms. And they certainly never thought of themselves as activists. But they have pushed Santos to an absolute full stop. Santos can't move. And can I tell you, they can't move in the Pilliga. Now the Pilliga is a state forest. It's not private land. So the state government said, you go for your life in the Pilliga, you do whatever you like. Tear it to pieces. 1 million acres of a beautiful wild country, but you tear it to pieces. You do to the Pilliga what they've done to our state forest here in Queensland. You ever been to Cumberella State Forest and Bromar State Forest and Tonnamine State Forest, Hutton State Forest? See what they've done there? Well, that's what they wanted to do to the Pilliga. But the farmers of New South Wales said, no, the Pilliga is the southern recharge area for the Great Artesian Basin. You go in there and you go stuffing up things there, that's going to impact on us. So we're going to stop you going into the Pilliga, even though it's not our property. So, now they're part of the same celebration. So here's Ted Borowski. Ted Borowski is a cattle farmer from Coonamble. I love this photo. I've been in the same situation myself, actually, quite a few times. He's sitting in a ditch waiting for a Santos truck to come along so he can jump out in front of it, stop it and lock himself on. I don't know if you can see it, but you can't actually. He's actually got an iron sleeve on his hand there, and he's going to jump out and lock himself onto the axle of the truck and put his hand through the other sleeve of the iron bar and lock himself on, which he did. He's sitting there nearly wetting himself with fright and wondering what on earth's going to happen, but he did it. And yeah, I'm just sitting looking at these sorts of things in awe of these people. You know, it takes farmers a long time to get stirred up, but boy, when you stir them up, they're the best activists I've ever seen. You know, I wish I'd had 100 of them back in the old days. You know,
Trevor's locking the truck better than locking the gate.
Well, if you can't lock the gate, then you lock the truck. That's a couple of friends of mine, lovely people, Neil and Anne Kennedy, also from Coonamble. I just happen to have a whole lot of Coonamble photos. But Anne has been very active for many years on the Great Artesian Basin Protection Alliance, I think that's what it's called. And she's passionate about underground water and protecting it. Her husband Neil is a cattle farmer, and they've been active right from the word go. I mean, they were some of the first people I saw out of Tara, actually. We had a rock the gate out of Tara back in 2010, and Anne turned up at that. And they're just forces of nature out there, Anne in particular. What an incredible person she is. But she's just a farmer. When I say just a farmer, you know, farmers are polite, they're they're respectable, they like being, you know, respectable. They don't like stepping outside the usual bounds of conformity. You know, in this, they've overcome, you know, all of those things and said, no, this is too important to just sort of sit back and say, well, we need to be polite, we need to let these people on. This one's also one of my favourite photographs. You know who the guy with the big grin is? That's David Pocock, the captain of the Australian Rugby Union team. David locked on with Rick Laird, who's a farmer from out at Maules Creek in northwest New South Wales. And you can see the iron sleeve that he's got his arm in. What's that? Well, in fact, Glenn would have the same problems that David had. He had such a big brawny arm, he couldn't fit it all the way through the sleeve. So, but I mean, David is obviously a very prominent person and a celebrity. Rick's a cattle farmer. You know, now they're great mates, of course. Nothing makes you a greater mate than sitting locked together on a big truck for about 10 hours in a day.
Should have locked Curtly Bell up there and left him there.
This had all the girls in the city of Sydney, you know, knees are trembling. You know, I Married a Farmer sort of show. These are half a dozen country boys out in western New South Wales heading off into the Pilliga to go and lock on. They're all farmers, and they're opposing Santos coming into the Pilliga State Forest. Oh, and that's a Playboy shoot that one of them was doing. And that's the sort of gathering that this is in Gunnedah Narrabri, Narrabri, was it? Yeah. With the celebration of one of their gas-bill-free communities. This is the sort of joyful, community-based campaigning that we've been doing in New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, West Australia, for a long time, and in parts of Queensland for some time now, and it brings the community together, because this is not an individual farmer's fight. If you fight it as individuals, you'll lose. Well, you can be like Joe Hill and hold out, but you've got to be a particular kind of tough character to be able to do that. I mean, Joe's heroic. I really got so much respect for him. But, you know, not everyone can do that. You need the community with you to help you through this. And the other thing about that is these companies come along, they see the community united, they see that everybody's gate is locked, they see those yellow signs out the front of the gates, and they just keep moving. They keep moving. They don't even bother stopping. Same thing again. A lot of big hats. Okay, we're just going around again. Okay, so the point I'm making here is you can do it. Now, here in Queensland, here, especially in this part of Queensland, we've got a different kettle of fish. It's no longer these companies wanting to come on. These companies are on, with the exception of Arrow, a bit further to the east, but these companies are on, and I include some of the coal companies in this because we've still got a coal problem, and they've got their approvals and they're working. So there's diverse issues at stake here. There's the health issue, which is a major issue for people who live in gas fields like the people in the Tara estate, but not only them. And there are major water issues, especially in an urgent manner for those who got their bores in the Walloon coal measures, and they have either lost their water, their bores are going gassy, or they will be losing their water very soon, and they've got to make good agreements, which is going to be no easy matter. And we've also got the prime ag land issue, which is the issue that they face at Cecil Plains, the issue that they face out at Hutton. That we've got a completely incompatible land use being superimposed on another existing land use. That is, coal seam gas on top of intensive agriculture. It simply is not compatible and shouldn't be allowed. So we've got all of those different issues here now, and we have to learn how to fight those issues. It's not just one of simply stopping and improving. So what I'm suggesting is that rather than the New South Wales examples and Victorian examples where the communities get together, get a gas field-free community, and they stop them coming on in the first place, that we need to develop a strategy that deals with the health issues, deals with the prime ag land issues, deals with the water issues. And so it's going to have to be a varied strategy and one that suits, you know, different places at different times. And what I would respectfully suggest that we consider at some stage, if not this weekend then soon, is the idea of a regional alliance. In New South Wales and in places like Gippsland, that's what they have. They've got organisations, Lock the Gate, but also other organisations, farmers' organisations or local groups or conservation groups in some cases, that get together into a regional alliance and fight it in those terms. And here in the Darling Downs, in the Surat Basin, we don't have a lot of groups now. We had quite a few back in 2010, but we don't have a lot now. We've got the Basin Sustainability Alliance, we've got Lock the Gate, we've got the Hutton group, we've got the Canby group. We've got any others around the place? Possibly.
Well, it's just the main group there still.
Well, that's right. And so there's the possibility of an alliance there, a working alliance there, I think, that brings together all of those energies and all of those organisations in a way that enables us to fight a fairly varied sort of campaign. And certainly with Lock the Gate, we want to be part of that and get involved, which is why we've put Paul on to look at those water issues and try to help farmers as much as we can who are dealing with that very difficult issue at the present time. But can I just finish by saying, look, the main thing that I've been stressing today, that it's really not difficult to stop these people. It really is incredibly easy. All you've got to do is say no. Just say no. You don't need to do anything more difficult than that, to tell you the truth. The whole point is, I'm not even asking you to commit civil disobedience. You don't have to break the law. All you have to do is step outside the normal, everyday run of your activity and say, instead of being polite to these people, when they send me a letter or when they come knocking on my door and saying they want access, you say, I will have nothing to do with you. You see that sign on the front gate? It says no trespassers. That means you. No trespassers. That gate's locked. Certainly to any resource extraction company. And it's going to stay locked. And they have only one option then, and that's to take you to court. How many farmers have been taken to court? Not one. Not one in the whole of Australia. Not one. And there's a very good reason for that. If one of these multinational mining companies like QGC or Shell or PetroChina or one of these companies, and I include Origin and Santos and that because they're aligned with a whole lot of multinational companies, if they call Queensland Police in to arrest a Darling Downs farmer and his wife and kids and his neighbours for standing at the front gate and saying and telling this multinational company they're not allowed onto his property to destroy it, and he gets arrested, that's the biggest shame job these companies can possibly think of. There will be a rebellion in Australia. If they try that, they know that. They know that as well as I do. That's why I developed the strategy in the first place, because they cannot operate against it. There's nothing they can do. And that's why, when they go to Joe Hill's place, they think, God, I'm not going to go and talk to that old bugger again. They just keep moving. And the same with anybody else they know whose gate is locked and who won't have anything to do with them. And that's what's happening in New South Wales. That's why the coal seam gas companies have come to an absolute dead stop. I mean, we take them to court and all of those sorts of things as well, but the key, the absolute core of the strategy is to lock that gate. Don't have anything to do with it. And from there, everything else flows. That's why Victoria now has a continuing moratorium. They've had it for years, they're going to continue to have it. Tasmania just enacted a 5-year moratorium on fracking. Now, the same will happen in all of the other states, because this is a dodgy industry that is absolutely open to being resisted by people who are prepared to work together. Thank you.
Paul King from Toowoomba.
G'day, Paul.
You noted that the gate is, the horse has already gotten out before we've been able to lock the gates here in Queensland. I know that this avenue has been explored in the past, but I still feel, and I'd like to hear your views, on the potential for actually suing some of these companies for damages. Because it's my view that once one of those dominoes falls, it suddenly becomes uneconomic for the others, and they're going to have to really reconsider their whole strategy. Is that still a living option? Oh,
absolutely. The trouble with that is it takes a long time. But can I tell you that
it has to be done first? That's what big problem.
Yeah, the damage has to be done first. Yeah. The lawyers are lining up, by the way, for the class actions that are coming. I mean, the people out at the Tara estate, I mean, they clearly are the starting point for any class action, but others as well. I mean, the make good agreements, I need to talk to people like Max Wenders and Lee McNichol who know more about this than I do, but I suspect that the make good agreements are completely impossible to accomplish. And so, there's all sorts of potential there for class actions and legal cases. I think there's also, we're investigating right now, actually, Lockyer is investigating, whatever litigation we can pursue at present, not just against approvals, but in other cases as well where damage has occurred and so on. So, yes, I do think this is what I say by a varied strategy. Locking the gate is the core. And by the way, just as an aside, locking the gate is what should happen at Hutton. They still haven't come on. That's prime agriculture. This is a beautiful campaign. Hutton is a beautiful campaign. If we can, the key is to get everybody to agree. And if you lock the gate on that whole area there, beautiful floodplain country, irrigation country, shouldn't be coming on. So if there's a lock the gate campaign there, then I mean, the message sells itself.
Could I contribute to that? Drew, sorry. Drew has rightfully indicated that in some cases it's too late to lock the gate, and in our case here, there's multiple examples, and some of them are sitting right here today, who are living with it. So what is the next strategy that Drew was talking about? Part of that strategy involves something that we've been practicing with our neighbours at Hopeland, is enforcing their agreements that they've made. So if they've come in and said, here, sign this piece of rubbish paper, and we've been fooled into signing it, well then we're tracing it back and saying, well here it says, you've got to give me information about what you're doing here today. Could I please have information about your weed and seed declaration? I'd also like to see information about how you're going to use that equipment, how you're going to manage the noise and how you're going to manage the dust. And by the way, if you're going to use water for dust suppression, can I please have some information about what that water is going to be? They cannot cope.
Yeah. And this is where this particular time in history is so important. They are desperate to get the gas. They're short on gas. They're buying at spot prices around the world now because they haven't got the gas. They are desperate to get on. You slow them up. That's what I reckon.
That's right. That's what they need.
Slow them up, harass them.
So we poke them by saying, do what you're supposed to be doing, give me the information. You can't give me the information, sorry, can't come in. And doesn't it irritate them, Nud? And does it irritate them, Wayne?